Oh, boy, that was a long year.
Yeah, best ever.
I'm talking about January.
Oh, yeah.
January 2021. That was a tough year, man. But let's talk about 2020. For real, it's over.
It is over.
It is done. There's a new year's upon us. New things are happening. It's all the same and it's all different. But let's sort of talk about it. It's been nuts, right?
I would say nuts is a good descriptor there.
And we're going to talk about it sort of in guitar form. We can't cover everything because we're uneducated in general.
Basically.
So how was 2020 for you, first off, before we get into the nuts and bolts of this?
It was surprisingly okay for me.
Weird, right?
Kind of weird.
It's I know you're gigging dried up like a desert.
To zero, pretty much. 0.4% was left, maybe.
I was going to say, it dried up like Keanu Reeves' career. Wait for it. Just kidding. We're all John Wick obsessives. So, and The Matrix, we're John Wick fanboys beyond anything. And Keanu Reeves fanboys. I mean, if I would have named all my children Keanu, but my wife's like, you can't do that. No, but it was a weird year. It was
very strange.
It was crazy. So, I remember just in guitar in general along, because I remember talking to Tammy Van Donk at Fender, and I had at this event before, things were just normal, and then all the press releases after. It's been neat to read hers and talking to my rep at Fender and all of our reps in the companies. Yep. Everyone thought the world was over in guitar, because when March happened, sales stopped, production stopped. It was this is the end of the guitar. I remember I was in the tennis courts. I wasn't playing tennis. I was teaching my son how to ride his bike, my 4-year-old. And I was trying to do that, and I was on the phone with the Fender, and they were like, we just don't know who's going to survive this. A lot of people are losing their jobs right now, and the companies. And then a month later, orders are through the roof.
Insane. That was a weird.
It was a month.
Yeah.
We became Fender Custom Shop Showcase dealers in March, right when this was happening. And then
right.
We're gonna, so Fender, all the big wigs we're coming out to come see the shop and hang out for a while and just talk about how we're gonna function this. And then they're like, never mind.
Well, it was funny because it was oh yeah, well after this thing is over, we'll come in next month in a few weeks.
So I'm on the phone with Joe from the custom shop. He's on Zoom, and it's totally lame. It's this is it's like winning the Heisman Trophy on Zoom. Because it's a big deal to become a showcase. But it was funny. They're such cool guys. We just love it. We sell guitars. But anyway, through the roof.
Yes.
More guitars were sold in 2020 by every manufacturer than the history of guitars.
Which is insane if you think about it. I mean, it's crazy.
It's insane. During a worldwide pandemic.
Yep.
The world is going through a massive, tragedy, and guitars are becoming this thing. In guitar, there was articles 2 years before the death of the guitar. George Gruen, in one of the Post or something. I can't remember. I disagreed with him when we had this conversation in person once at Martin, I think. We were at some meeting.
You can't disagree with George Gruen.
I did, but he doesn't remember who I am. He forgot me immediately. He's like, who is that funny guy?
Yeah.
He's weird. I'm walking away to have a bagel, and I think that's what he did. And then we had the coffee, and I don't drink coffee and brownies later that night again. We have weird food eating habits with guitar people, but no, it was strange though. And it hasn't really stopped.
It hasn't.
So I was looking at some of the major players in this. We look at the manufacturers like Fender. I think they had $800 million in sales or something.
Wow.
Their production was through the roof. PRS is at insane levels of production demand. They have $50 million in arrears of production at all points. And Taylor has 3 shifts of build, But then we go into the major sellers, which I found unbelievably fast. So Sweetwater. Can I tell you how many guitars they sold a day?
Yes.
I mean, we would guess, maybe a few hundred would be a lot. They sold 1,000 guitars a day.
Whoa.
A day. That's insane. They were doing 15,000 to sometimes 20,000 orders a day. These because you're getting strings, you're getting pedals and stuff.
Right, all the random.
1,000 guitars ordered and shipping out every day. It's insane. They did over $1 billion in sales.
Whoa.
They sold more things than Fender sold things to these people that sell things. It's Fender makes them.
I mean, that's really, when you think, that is a huge number for guitar sale. I mean, that is astronomical.
I mean, it's insane. And I mean, they're an amazing business too. Like
Sure.
we always give credit where credit's due. Like we think, we were hoping like other companies would take note from what Sweetwater does, like we do.
And we send people to Sweetwater all the time. If it's something we can't get, we're like, here you go. I pull up the website and show them,
They've done
Sweetwater.
it right. They're a good company. They have a good heart behind it too. The CEO is a good man. He's not a shark like in some of these other companies. It's just like it is an investment equity firms that owns. This is a family-owned business.
They treat their employees really, really
That
well.
has over 2,000 employees.
Right.
It's more than most small towns in America work at Sweetwater. Like how many people live in Hamlet? Like maybe 4,000 people?
It's right around there. Yep.
I mean, it's half the town
Right.
is Sweetwater. That's a small town near where we live that Jonathan used to live. Now he lives in Rockingham, the big city.
That's true.
That's bigger, isn't it?
It is bigger.
It seems bigger.
I should know I don't know who lives there.
I don't either because our town's small too, but it's not small like that. But it's still a small town. But no, I mean they expanded their factories. It was insane. Like the amount of new guitar players coming into the market was insane as well. And Fender had a big deal with that with their Fender Play, giving that away. All the online platforms, it's changed everything. So
and all those new guitar players, we would talk to people constantly who were like, "Oh, we're starting this because we don't have anything else to do." It was sort of across all demographics. It wasn't just kids. So it was kids. It was adults. It was people who were retiring. It was people who always wanted to try. People who put it down in college and are picking it back up. It was sort of across the spectrum.
It is. Or it's a gentleman we just received an email from this morning. I'm not going to say his name, but we're getting ready to respond to you. Actually, we probably have already responded by the time you see this video. But he's sort of new to it. He's already acquired. This is not out of the normal either. He's new to the guitar. Within 2020 maybe, has bought 15 guitars in 1 year. We've seen this more. This does not happen normally. This is not like a normal trajectory. It's like but it's been now it's the new normal, which is like who would have thought that would become like the new normal from everybody's like, well, this is the new normal with COVID and the guitar. Well, that's it. I'm like,
well, I mean, we know it's addictive. You and I know that it is. So when you're like, oh, I can't go anywhere, what do I do? I'll look on the internet at more guitars.
No, I just got this like new amp like a few weeks ago. Then I played this PRS DGT amp, like the 30-watt head. And I was like, God, that's really good. I kind of need this too.
I can see it in your eyes.
I don't need. I was like, no, it's a lot better. I mean, rationalizing to everyone that works here. No, we definitely, and it's really pretty. It's got wood on the front. That's like a PRS has wood. It's wood, but I don't need it at all. But I kind of want it.
Well, yeah.
And David Grissom's legit awesome.
He is.
So and the amp is really good. It's frustratingly good. So if you haven't played a DGT amp, go play one. They're expensive, but they're really good. Anyway, so this influx of players. We think we're talking with Sean about this morning too. Like we think there's going to be like a new explosion in guitar music maybe.
That would be awesome.
I think it's like, well, you have all these new players.
And I think it's kind of a weird thing, right? Because there was already this sort of uptrend in guitar players, guitar music on YouTube, on Instagram.
Yes.
So you've got all these new players. They're consuming it even more now because they're interested in it. They do care about, the guitar solo or the random guitar jam. And so hopefully that all feeds into each other and there's more being produced.
I'm going to go as far as like 2025 is the year of the guitar like explosion again as far as players because I think we have a 5-year learning curve of and maybe even a birth of like new punk.
That'd be
like
fun.
some kids that are like just getting into it and there are some young punks out there now, but a whole big birth of punk. Because it is as we talk about YouTube, that's like the new rock star.
Well, and I said at the beginning, I remember us having a conversation when we were doing our, casino nights where we were doing live streaming different local artists, just trying to help out. And I said, maybe people are going to hear this stuff. They seem to be really enjoying these live streams. Maybe music is going to take a step down production level and get back to this actual played guitars and instruments, a little more rootsy. And I think if you look at Little Larkin Poe covers on YouTube, they blow up, and I constantly see in the comments, man, this is real music. We love this. It's just two sisters, a guitar, two guitars, two voices.
Yeah, if you haven't heard Larkin Poe, check them out. It's pretty phenomenal.
So I think there is a rise in those
or even that group we had in here. God, I think it was like a year or even 2, like the Poe Ramblin'
Oh,
Boys.
those guys are awesome.
They're coming back.
Are they?
They're coming
here
back.
To us?
They're coming. I booked them to come play in Pinehurst, so I'll bring them in the studio when they come here because I just want to hang out with them and talk because those dudes they're Grammy Award winning bluegrass band. phenomenal players, but just hilarious dudes, and their girlfriends are way more attractive than these guys deserve. Insanely, it just doesn't make sense. I was like, what is happening here? Like, and it's just the allure of guy plays things with strings good. It's good. Makes pretty person like him. Yeah. It's like I love that. That's the only way I was able to date out of my pay grade at all. True. I can play things okay. Like you can play, and by okay I mean if you play 3 chords, you're in.
I mean that's how Christy landed me. I'm just kidding. That's not true.
Weird.
What?
No, so I think we're gonna have a whole other video on like the YouTube and the rock star sort of idea, but no, it's like we're gonna see an explosion of new guitar music. Yes. I think an explosion from these manufacturers of new guitars. We're gonna see a huge. Don't get me wrong, not everyone's gonna stick with it, but more than used to be. It used to be 90% quit. Now I think we're gonna get closer, hopefully, to like 85% just quit, maybe even 80%.
Do you think because people have slowed down, their patience level is up? Maybe yes. That's gonna,
Well, and I think there's so much good stuff online now to learn.
Yeah.
You don't have to take that active step of like picking up the phone or emailing to go take a lesson necessarily in the same way. You should, even if you just do 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5.
It is nice, but you can just throw a rock into YouTube land and it will hit a good guitar lesson. They're everywhere.
There's so many out there.
A lot.
There's so many good ones. I'm not even begin to name them. That's a whole other video on its own. But it's the idea is like it's right there in the computer for you.
It's there.
And so everything's changed in 2020. And also with the guitars that are going to be people aren't going to stick with it, we're going to see a lot of used pieces come back into the market. So I think later this year maybe.
So maybe that brings us into what's 2021 going to look like? Do you think this is going to continue? Is the trend going to continue?
Well, I think manufacturing is still so backed up. The demand is still going to be high. So if you're like, the days of like calling a guitar shop, I've talked to my other guitar shop friends, like the days of like wheeling and dealing, it's not really a thing as much. Like, hey, because they're not sitting on inventory, they need to move. They're begging for inventory.
They don't,
Like we won't get a Gibson guitar again until like the summer at the soonest, or like later. It's even like, PRS, when we order PRS guitars, we're waiting 12 to 14 months. So when we just did a massive order just a week or so ago, we're always sort of updating that as it's like running artillery. You got to stay right behind it as the artillery field goes forward.
Yep.
It's that's a World War I reference to the British's flawed plans in the Battle of the Somme. That was a disaster for their young lost generation there. Sorry. God, those darn Brits, those generals there. But anyway, I get excited when we were talking history before. We were sending a shirt to this guy in Germany, and he lives near like a cool battlefield, I think.
We like history.
We do like history. We watch lots of history. Like watch infographics or simple history if you have kids. And you have to sort of watch them before, but it's great. Some ways to get your kids into like exciting parts of history.
Right.
Some are really scary though, so definitely pre-watch them. They're not sponsoring us to say this because we were way too small.
So we had no idea we were going to talk about.
Notice us. They're huge channels. They're great. Yeah. But no, I think it's going to be good though. I think it's going to be a good year for guitar again. I think
so.
I do. I think like the demand for like we've sold a lot of guitars this year already. We have lots of orders coming in. It's just production is going to be the issue.
Right. It's going to be meeting all that demand. The supply being there.
And so most of the shops are like, we can't get the guitars in fast enough to, the hooks are empty. We have empty hooks. We have empty storage facilities and whatnot. So it's tricky. Yeah. But I think the demand is going to stay there because I think people found through this whole lockdown, like joy.
I think so too.
And like not joy being locked down, but they found their joy.
Right.
Like it's like
they're searching for that thing to occupy.
I mean, I've got Netflix and Disney and all that stuff, but it's like how much of that can you watch before you just want to like everything? You gotta watch Bridgerton. I'm like, I'm not gonna watch Bridgerton. I've had enough.
It gets old pretty quick.
I watched Love Is Blind right when the pandemic was happening, and that was amazing. But it's how much trash can you ingest?
Right.
Because it is trash. And then people, I think, have found like they want to touch things and play things.
Yeah.
And I mean, like you were just talking about, the theaters are calling you again.
Yes.
Like out in the Midwest.
Right.
Like, bye, Jonathan. I'll miss you again. But yeah, Jonathan does lots of theater shows, like blues jams and like sort of rock and roll, southern rock jams around the country. And he gets called out, and that's what he was doing before COVID. And then now it's like it's kind of coming back on again. And
it's true.
So
in a strange, lopsided sort of fashion, but it's coming.
I know it's even like which is concerning because it's because I'll miss you, but it's okay. We'll see you. Okay. We'll see you soon. But so I think 2020 was it was a transformative year for guitar and guitar's future. Is like that's what I'm excited about. I think it was. I'm not happy it happened. I think it was a tragedy and everything was terrible and the loss of life, and the loss of income and jobs but for guitar and it was what we're more passionate about than almost anything. It's a huge win.
Yes.
It's and if you're a new guitar player, I would love to hear your stories on it. If you're a seasoned guitar player and you found this an inspiring time as well, just to really get back and buckle down into it, we want to hear that as well.
Absolutely.
Just tell us. And if you've bought 15 guitars in the past year, we definitely want to hear about it. I'm not going to say your names. You've sold a few people about 15 guitars in this past year. It's
also true.
But it's like we have the same addiction.
We do,
and it's almost because I noticed a lot of people were drinking at first during the lockdown, and that sort of dried up a bit. Like liquor sales were through the roof. I track all this weird stuff. It's like I have friends in that business, and it was crazy. Then it sort of like evened out again, and it became like a normal level. But then guitar sales just kept, and then Q4 hit, and it was like and it shot even further. So it's I'm excited for 2021. I'm ready to get this horrible thing behind us.
Yes.
And I want to see shows again because we still think 2022 is the year of the show.
Where the live music re-emerges in force.
And like a waterfall, like a tsunami.
Hopefully that will be sort of like how the guitar sales blew up. Hopefully live music will do the same thing for folks.
And I think we're going to hear a lot more and it might not be guitar being used in the way that like we have expected it historically.
Sure.
But guitars are being used. The fact that Phineas is on the cover of the Taylor Wood and Steel.
There you
go. Phineas is Billie Eilish's brother, and like they're the songwriting duo and monsters that have blown up pop music for the past like 2-3 years almost. Fun fact: Jared Leto, I think, I saw them play at a private party before they were signed. He was like, "Man, I wanted to sign those guys," and he definitely regrets it to this day. I think that's just a funny story. I was like, maybe I should sign them. Nah.
They'll never make it. They'll never do it.
No, but it's funny because he talked about how great they were, not as musicians, but how great of people they were too.
That's awesome.
And I've only heard great. That sort of that Billie Eilish carpool karaoke, hilarious.
I haven't watched
They go to their house where they go into this little bedroom, which isn't as big as this studio where we're sitting in this carpeted area, and they record all his masterworks. Anyway, fascinating. So anyway,
that's really cool.
Phineas is on the cover of Wood and Steel. Everything has changed. So, but we're going to see guitar becoming the creative, not just like the keyboard notes of our laptops.
The MIDI programming.
The MIDI programming. That's not going to be the only thing anymore. So I'm excited. It gives us all more lifeblood and more music to look forward to.
It's good. A nice bright spot in this weird, strange time.
Strange time.
It's all looking up. Let us know what you guys think in the comments. Hit like and subscribe if you have not already. Be sure to hit that bell so that you don't miss videos in the future. Thanks for hanging out with us.